In the silence of a dying farm, beneath a sky torn between two worlds.
The summer that Lyra came to the valley, the corn was already dying. Caleb Marsh had watched the stalks wither from his porch for 3 mornings straight, a mug of cold coffee going bitter in his hand. He was 42 and looked 60, the kind of man whose silence had texture to it, heavy, worn-in, permanent. He had buried his wife 2 seasons ago, buried his dog the season before that, and somewhere in between he had buried the version of himself that still believed the land might reward a man for loving it. He was not prepared for what fell out of the sky on the 4th morning. It came down slowly, not like a meteor, but like something tired, a sphere of deep cobalt light that settled in the east pasture without a sound, without a scorch mark, without any drama at all. Caleb had his rifle halfway up before he stopped himself. Something in his chest told him there was no threat here, only sorrow. And somehow he recognized that feeling the way a man recognizes the shape of his own shadow. She was standing in the field when he reached the fence line. She looked like a woman, and she did not look like a woman. Her skin was the pale blue of moonlit ice, smooth and faintly luminous. Her hair was silver, braided in long ropes, threaded with dark sapphire beads that caught the dawn and threw it back in small fires. She wore armor the color of a night sky, deep navy, stitched with gold, set with glowing stones that pulsed like slow heartbeats. Her ears came to soft points. Her eyes, when they finally found him across the field, were the color of deep ocean water, ancient, terribly beautiful, full of something that had no name in any human language except grief. Caleb climbed through the fence. Farmers always do. It is not bravery. It is just that the land belongs to them, and they refuse to be strangers to any corner of it. "You hurt," he called. She did not answer in words. She sank to her knees in his dirt, right there between the rows of dead corn, and she pressed her face into both hands, and she wept. The sound she made was not a human sound. It was something older, the kind of cry that empires make when they fall, when the last torch goes out, when the very last person who remembers a language forgets it. Caleb stood there for a long moment. Then he knelt down beside her, the way he had knelt beside injured horses, beside the body of his wife, beside every broken thing the world had ever asked him to witness. "Hey," he said quietly. "You're all right. I've got you." She raised her face from her hands. Up close, she was even more extraordinary. Her tears were silver, leaving tracks down her cheeks like cooling starlight. She stared at him as though he were a creature she had read about in books but never quite believed in. "You are not afraid," she said. Her voice had a resonance to it, a layered quality, like a chord played on an instrument that did not exist yet. It was not a question. "I've been afraid," Caleb said. "Right now I'm mostly just wondering if you need water." Something in her face shifted, not quite a smile, but the ghost of one. The shadow of a feeling she had forgotten she was capable of. Her name, she eventually told him, was Lyra Vael. She had been the High Celestia of the Vael'en Communion, a word that translated imperfectly as something between queen, high priest, and living memory of a people. The Vael'en had numbered in the tens of billions across 7 star systems. They had built libraries the size of moons. They had mapped grief and joy with the same precision they mapped galaxies. They had loved and argued, and made art that took centuries to perform, and had believed themselves to be, if not immortal, at least enduring. 3 days ago, by her measurement, all of it had ended. A collapse in the energy lattice that held their home system together, the kind of catastrophic unraveling that, in Vael'en cosmology, came once every billion years. There had been no warning. There had been no time. There had been only Lyra, sealed into an escape vessel by her council against her will, launched out into the dark while everything she had ever loved burned behind her. She had drifted for a long time. She had aimed for warmth, for light, for a star with a living world around it. She had found, of all things, a dying cornfield and a man who offered her water. "You are all I have left," she said. It was not romantic. It was terrifying in its simplicity, the arithmetic of a universe stripped bare. She was not speaking to Caleb personally. She was speaking to this world, to this small, improbable, still-breathing planet, to the corn and the windmill and the old barn and the mountains in the distance, barely visible in the morning haze. To all of it, to anything that was still alive. But she was looking at him when she said it. Caleb was quiet for a long time. The sun came fully up. A crow passed overhead and made no comment. "You can stay," he said finally. "The house has a spare room. It's not much, but it keeps the rain out." She looked at him the way people look at something they are afraid to want. "I do not know how to be ordinary," she said. "Nobody does," Caleb said. "You just practice." He stood up and offered her his hand. It was rough and calloused and stained with soil that would never fully wash out. She looked at it for a moment, this small, mortal, work-damaged thing, and then she took it. Her fingers were cool and smooth and impossibly gentle, like holding starlight that had decided, at last, to be still. They walked back toward the house together, across the dead corn, under the enormous sky. Behind them, where her vessel had landed, the grass was already beginning to change, a deep, vivid green spreading slowly outward from the impact point, as if the earth itself had recognized her sorrow and decided to answer it with something alive. Caleb did not see it. He was already thinking about breakfast, about whether he had enough eggs, about whether she could eat what he could eat, about all the ordinary and necessary things that keep the living going. And Lyra Vael, last of the Vael'en Communion, high Celestia of a civilization that no longer existed, walked through a dead man's cornfield on a small blue planet and felt, for the first time in 3 days, the faintest and most fragile stirring of something she had not expected to feel again. Something like hope.